Well, good afternoon. This is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon, and thank you all for joining me on this wonderful weekend. Beautiful weather we're having, and this is a not so sunny story of a woman who rented an Avis car, paid with her credit card, and they billed her $8,000 for the 36,000 miles that they claimed that she drove in 3 days. That's right, 3 days, 36,000 miles. This is like going to from Toronto to South Africa and back 3 times over in 3 days. And I'm going to read you the story because, and it is a cautionary tale, because the customer service that ensued, like she only found out when she was getting onto the plane in Toronto, leaving to go home, and she was checking her credit card bill to make sure it had gone through okay, and that's when she discovered the mistake. And the trouble she had getting through to any kind of customer service and any kind of resolve took a couple of days. Now, this is absolutely unconscionable, but you can imagine if this had been with a debit card, how the knock-on effects of this on any other banking transactions that were going to take place, direct debits, that kind of stuff, that might have bounced because of this, are unbelievable. You know, your life could have become a lot more complicated because of this one thing and the inability to resolve it quickly. That's the key here. That's the cautionary part of this tale, because, you know, they are trying to foist, or they will be trying to foist in the most unbelievably seductive ways and leveraged ways to get you to sign on to a digital identity. And if this happens to your digital identity, your life stops. And you know, in China, where they have a social credit system exactly like this, you can't get hold of customer service. And in fact, there's a situation going on right now in China where they have a strange system over there with their mortgages, whereby people will buy houses before they've moved in and start paying on their mortgage. Well, some of these huge developers, one of them is Evergrande, has now run into a liquidity problem. Okay, they don't have the money to finish the homes. Their financial situation is so dire they can't get money from the banks to finish the homes. And the people who bought the houses and paying the mortgages are refusing to pay their mortgages until the homes are finished. So they wanted to protest, the people who have these mortgages. Well, guess what? The Chinese government turned their COVID app from green to red. Guess what? They can't leave their cordoned off area, can't protest. There you go. This is the danger. This is the trap. Anyway, I'm just going to read you this little story and I'll come back and do a quick wrap up. Okie dokie, here we go. This is from CTV News, Toronto. Woman charged $8,000 after rental car company claims she drove 36,000 kilometers in 3 days. A car rental company in Toronto led to a huge charge on Giovanna Boniface's credit card. A woman who rented a car in Toronto said she was charged $8,000 after the company claimed she drove nearly the distance of the Earth's circumference in 3 days. The Vancouver woman, Giovanna Boniface, said she rented a car from Avis for 3 days after she travelled to Toronto Pearson early this month to help her daughter get settled in at university. She said she drove the GMC Yukon Denali between the airport, downtown Toronto, and to Kitchener, where she visited with her mother-in-law. In total, she said she drove approximately 300 kilometres by the time she returned the car to the airport and checked in for a flight to Europe. Boniface said she prepaid about $1,000 to rent the car. While waiting to board her flight, she said she checked her credit card statement online to make sure the charge had been processed correctly. That's when I noticed this charge for over $8,000 from Avis, Boniface told CTV News in Toronto on Thursday. She said she then looked at her receipt from Avis and noticed the company had charged her for driving 36,482 kilometres at a rate of 25 cents per kilometre. Boniface said she would have had to drive 72 hours straight at approximately 500 kilometers an hour for this to be possible. It is also approximately the same distance as driving from Toronto to South Africa 3 times. The first thing I wanted to do was actually go back through security and just walk to the counter, she said, but I wouldn't have had time to do that because the security lines were really long. Fancy that. That's the slowdown at Toronto Airport. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. Instead, she tried calling the Avis location at the airport, but no one would answer the phone. Fancy that. Who hasn't heard that before? It was just ringing and ringing and no one was answering, she said. It was really frustrating just trying to get somebody. Bonnie said she then called Avis through their general phone number but still had issues sorting out the problem. They didn't seem to really get what my issue was and I really needed them to remove this $8,000 charge, she said. She said she was disconnected twice whilst trying to speak with an Avis manager and eventually had to board her flight. When has that never happened before? After arriving in Paris, Boniface said she called Visa to dispute the transaction, but there was nothing they could do since the charge was still listed as pending. She said it wasn't until days later, when media got involved, that she got a call back from Avis notifying her the extra charges would be refunded. In a statement to CTV News Toronto, Avis said it had apologised to Boniface for the error and has issued a refund. They did not say what caused the error to occur. I wonder if they even know. She said she understands companies do make mistakes like all of us, we all understand this, but doesn't like the way the ordeal was handled and how it took going public to get the problem solved. Overall, it was not good customer service, she said, adding that the ordeal put unnecessary stress on her whilst travelling. The most frustrating thing was not getting through to customer service in any kind of timely way, and why major companies have outsourced. This is beyond me. This is one thing that frustrates everybody when you cannot get customer service when you need it. This is one thing you need to keep in-house. And don't get digital ID. Cautionary tale here. Cautionary tale. Now, I think you have all had this experience in the past, especially with some of these larger companies, like Bell, like the banks, like credit cards and so on and so forth, getting through to customer service or getting past the front line of customer service, which is often outsourced. I actually make a point now when I'm in conversations with people trying to get through to customer service, I ask them where they're located. And many times it is offshore, many times these people are reading from a script, and many times it leads to frustration because there is a communications barrier. They seem to talk way too fast. And like I say, if you have a situation that varies from the script, they invariably cannot help you. So this is what's going to happen with DI. You have a problem, you're going to go through barrier after barrier after barrier of outsourced help that doesn't give a fiddler's jig whether you can get on that plane or not, whether you can rent that car. Maybe you've got to get to a conference hall, maybe you're doing an important business deal and you've got to get from the airport and you're all of a sudden there's a problem. And you can't resolve it quickly enough. That's the problem. You can't resolve it quickly enough to put your life back in order again. So do not fall for this trap, even if you're being leveraged. And I know that's going to be hard because I'm certain that people collecting benefits will be asked to take those benefits through DI or not at all. And it will be in some kind of, central bank digital currency. So I'm not quite sure what I will do in that situation. I know there'll be lots and lots of people in that situation, but that's why we have to rally against this. Talk to your MP, MPP, tell them you don't want it. Tell them you don't want it. And be aware that a lot of these politicians now, those senior civil servants, those people who are mother weffers, enablers, they have put spam blockers on most of the politicians and councillors' email accounts or in their email reception service, and if you have certain keywords in there, boing, you just get bounced. So bear that in mind. What I started doing is I've been writing to politicians via registered mail. Then I'm absolutely certain that they have received what I have sent to them. If you send an email, like I say, there's a 50-50 chance that if it's too short, if it's too long, if it contains certain keywords, these spam blockers, out you go. And so your voice is not being heard. Even phone calls, certainly my local MPP hasn't answered a phone call in the last decade, I don't think. So that's almost pointless too. Or go and visit the office personally. You know, take a group of you, take a delegation in, and make a point. Make a point that you don't want digital identity. We don't need it. We have all the modern conveniences that we have. We do not need this next level because it is programmable money, and I'll tell you, once you're in that trap, it'll be the Roach Motel, man. You can get in, but you cannot get out. Okay, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe below, and in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant afternoon, and we'll talk very, very shortly. You take care now. See ya. Bye.